Hi everyone, meteorologist Joel Curtis with Alaska Weather. Starting out for our watches, warnings, and advisories. There's a winter storm warning for a large area of western Alaska, including the villages of Kotzebue, Ambler, Shishmarif, and Galena. And this is for heavy snow, some blowing snow, half-mile visibility at times, and we have freezing rain also working in. And that will be at least into tonight and possibly extending into tomorrow as well. We have winter weather advisory for the other areas in western Alaska, including Gambell, Grayling, and McGrath. And this is for, again, some more snow. Lesser amounts of freezing rain, but that's certainly got some at McGrath today. Wind 15 to 30 miles per hour. And again, that could extend into Saturday as well. Also, we have a winter weather advisory for the Arctic coast, all the way from Point Hope over to AKwx. Snow, blowing snow, some gusts to 40. And please stay tuned on that one too. It could be updated in a bit. Also, a wind advisory remains for Alaska Range at least until 6 a.m. Saturday morning. South 40, gusts to 60. And I encourage you to go to weather.gov/AFG for any updates on these warnings. So looking at our satellite loop, we've got still a big upper level flow from the south, and you can see the bands of clouds moving up, especially over western Alaska. Hasn't worked too much into the eastern side of the state or southeast yet. Also, we have a low pressure center that you can see in the on the cloud pattern just southwest of St. Paul, and some bands of showers all across the Bering Sea, and then also coming up south of Unalaska Island. For today's weather, we've got our old low. It's now gone ahead and moved pretty far north into the Chukchi Sea, 999 millibars. Trough extends eastward, and you can see that in the cloud bands. Little light snow associated with that. Trough extends down to the main surface low, 988 millibars in the Bering Sea, just northwest of Alaska there. Snow showers, mixed rain and snow. Some good winds on the south side of that, and showers behind the front, and there are indications of more warm air coming up into the Gulf from the south. And then for tonight's weather, we have the low is now formed into the Gulf at 997 millibars, and a frontal system has developed, and it's approaching southeast Alaska and the North Gulf Coast. Also, we have that trough line along the west coast of Alaska with lots of snow showers, some wind, and again, fitting right in with the warnings, watches, and advisories that we have out. 995 millibar low off of Cape Newenham, and some snow showers on the backside of that. And then we have a new player, 980 millibars southwest of Shemya. So we have a Facebook post, snow and rain return to southeast Alaska, and that's they're now getting back in it after a couple of really nice days. For Saturday's weather, we have the low now is 989 millibars, and it's just south of Seward for the center, and a frontal system moving up to the North Gulf Coast and also approaching the Panhandle. There's some cooler air in behind this, but it's still mainly rain and showers that are out over the Gulf. In the meantime, on the north side, we have snow and snow showers, and then a trough, our usual trough over the west coast, still causing weather problems over there. And for the southwest Alaska, it's more snow showers. And then we also have a 977 millibar low now in the western Aleutians, with some warm air out ahead of it and cooler air in behind it. And for the weekend for South Central, we can see cooling temperatures and increasing chances of snow on Saturday and Sunday. And the slide to the right shows the shaded area where the best chances of snow are. For Sunday's weather, the low is now up by Point Hope, Still 10-13 millibars, really weakening. That low that was out in the Aleutians has moved a little bit further east. You can see warm air now coming up to the Alaska Peninsula, particularly the Unimak Island and the Cold Bay area. And also the low is now starting to weaken off of southeast Alaska, and it's moving precipitation onshore in the form of rain and snow. Also some clearing over south central on Sunday. So our low temperature Saturday morning for southeast, mid-20s all the way up to the mid-30s, 32 for Yakutat, 5 for Golconda. For south central, mid-20s up to the lower 30s, and Homer's got a low of 36. And then as you get farther west, drops off again into the 30s. For low temperature Saturday morning for the North Slope, single digits again. As you get a little further south, you start seeing some teens and even 23 for Kotzebue, 6 for St. Lawrence, 27 for Nome. And then we get down to McGrath, it's about 15 degrees or so, and 2 for Fairbanks. For low temperature Saturday morning, for the southwest, we have mid-30s and then dropping off into the upper 20s for as you go out the chain. 28 for the Pribilofs, 30 for Shemya, and then you can see 27 for Nome and about 29 for Bethel or so. For a high temperature Saturday afternoon for southeast, 32 for Skagway, 38 for Yakutat, and all the way up to 40 for Sitka, and in the mid-30s as you get further southeast. As we move over to south central, the mid-30s, and 41 for Homer, 17 for Golconda, and then as we get further out west, we're seeing temperatures in the mid-30s to upper 30s. And then for high temperatures for Saturday afternoon along the North Slope, single digits, but then increasing to the teens as further west you get with that flow of warm air aloft. Also have 27 for Kotzebue, 31 for Nome, getting to 16 at Fairbanks, and then getting down toward Unalakleet, 32. St. Lawrence Island still remaining a cold 10 degrees. As we get out to the southwest, you see temperatures rising up into the mid-30s and even almost to 40 degrees. 32 for the Pribilofs, 35 for Shemya, and then as you get it on the chain, around 40 to the mid-30s. For a low temperature Sunday morning, 27 for Skagway, all the way up to 34 down at Ketchikan, 35 for Sitka, 30 for Yakutat, 3 for Golconda, 26 for Anchorage, and as you get further west, you still see in those mid-20s or so, 32 for Kodiak. And then for our low temperature Sunday morning, single digits again along the North Slope, getting warmer as you get further south, Kotzebue 17, Nome 15, Fairbanks at -1, but 16 as you get down toward the Alaska Range due to downslope winds, and 21 at Unalakleet. And for a low temperature Sunday morning, as you go to the southwest, mid-30s as you go out the chain to 30 at Adak, 30 at Shemya, and 27 for the Pribilofs, 17 to 19 degrees for the southwest. And then finally for a high temperature Sunday afternoon, mid-30s to lower 40s for southeast Alaska, 38 for Yakutat, 20 for Golconda, 31 for Anchorage, 38 for Homer, 40 for Kodiak, and then as we move further west, mid-30s. For a North Slope, single digits again for the North Slope. As you get down toward the Brooks Range, 6 all the way up to 20 when you get over to Kotzebue, 19 for Nome, 9 for Fairbanks, and then 20 for McGrath. And then for southwest, temperatures in the mid-30s to lower 40s, and then as you go further north in the 20s. And that's all the time we have. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, and please check the internet for updates on those warnings.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, happy Friday, and now for our aviation forecast. Starting out with our flying weather for Saturday morning. Extensive areas of IFR across the state. A little bit of VFR, though, starting to work in a few small areas. and mostly marginal VFR elsewhere. As we move on to Saturday afternoon, extensive IFR in the southwest along the north slope, some for the eastern Brooks Range, also along the Gulf Coast and all the way over into the Panhandle, and some out in the far western Aleutians. As we get to Sunday morning, you can see some clearing starting out in Lower Cook Inlet and into Prince William Sound and off of Kodiak Island. IFR over the central portion of the state and along the north slope and into the Brooks Range. Also the Pribilofs and along the Alaska Peninsula and the southeast Alaska Panhandle. For Sunday morning, some IFR over the northern sections of the state as well as the southwest out to St. Matthew Island along the Alaska Peninsula, a little bit for Kodiak and along the eastern border of the Panhandle. Marginal VFR elsewhere, but you can see some clearing over South Central. For the past conditions Saturday, Anaktuvik, IFR becoming marginal VFR. Adigan, IFR becoming marginal VFR with extensive IFR to the east. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR. Rainy, IFR. Windy, IFR. Isabel, IFR. Mentasta, marginal VFR. Tanita Pass, IFR. Portage Pass, IFR, and expect turbulence in the morning. Chilkoot and White Pass, both IFR all day Saturday. For a freezing level Saturday morning, a little bit of 2,000 foot over the western central area, most of the state at the surface, but you can see some 2,000 foot freezing level has moved up along the Gulf Coast and also touching into the Panhandle. For icing on Saturday, we got a good area below 4,000 feet for northwestern Alaska, all along the coast, below 2,000 feet along the eastern Arctic coast, between 2,000 and 10,000 feet all the way from Icy Bay across down to Homer, and then for the Lake Clark and area. And then we have some considerable moderate below 4,000 feet for the southwest, starting at Cape Romanzoff and going out to the Alaska Peninsula, and it becomes 8,000 feet as you get out over the Gulf. We've got some below the central Aleutians, south there, 3,000 to 8,000 feet, and below 4,000 feet as you get in the far western Aleutians. For a jet stream on Saturday, most of the jet is well below the state. We do have some 50-knot southerlies over the western interior, 70 knots over the Chukchi Sea, and 110 knots over Unalaska. Otherwise, the wind drops off, and it's pretty calm over southeast. For 9,000 foot winds on Saturday, a couple of circulation centers. We've got the one in the Gulf of Alaska. It's got quite a circulation, 45 to 50 knots. Only 30 knots over the Panhandle. Another circulation center in the over the Yukon Delta. Most of the strong wind is well below the Aleutians. However, we do have a little bit of 50 knots touching on Alaska. Also some 45s coming off the Alaska Peninsula. For our 3,000 foot winds on Saturday, quite a circulation there in the Gulf. 60 knots around that low near Middleton Island. 45 knots as you get over toward Yakutat. 50 knots offshore from the Panhandle. And coming off the peninsula, we got 65 knots, but 40 to 55 knots over the peninsula proper. Some easterlies, 45 knots over Kotzebue Sound. And then we have another circulation system in the western Aleutian, 55 to 65 knots. For our turbulence on Saturday, we've got a slight area below 2,000 feet off of Baranof Island, below 10,000 feet with low-level wind shear extending from about Cape Spencer all the way over to Kodiak Island and including much of Cook Inlet, the Kenai Peninsula. Below 4,000 feet, some considerable moderate as you get into northwestern Alaska, below 8,000 feet over the Alaska Range. And then we have below 8,000 feet, considerable moderate, all the way out the Alaska Peninsula through the Aleutians until you get into the far western Aleutians where that level is below 3,000 feet. Well, that's our aviation forecast, and please do fly safe, and thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining us here today is Eric Stevens from the Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, GINA for short. And Eric, you frequently come on the show to tell us about these really cool things that we're doing with satellites over Alaska and how we can use these really awesome tools. But I'm thinking all the while there has to be a mad scientist somewhere working on the next cool thing in the satellite laboratory. What is being developed today?
Right. Well, you know, when I was a kid growing up in the boonies in North Dakota there, on Sunday after church, the old people, like my parents and their parents, would gather and have coffee and talk. And I kind of eavesdropped on them a little bit. And the theme of a lot of these conversations seemed to be, well, isn't it amazing what they can do these days, someone would say.
Sure.
And I was thinking, oh, I don't know, I was too young.
Right.
Well, now I'm old enough in the weather satellite business.
You can remember when.
The new generation of weather satellites, I'm starting to say, isn't it amazing what they can do these days? Because it's always improving.
Yes.
Maybe an analogy here is like television. Television started in black and white, then it went to color. Analog signal transitioned to digital here a number of years ago. Standard definition becomes high definition. Right. Well, weather satellites are changing too. First weather satellites went up around 1960, not that long ago. No. It's comparatively young science. And every time a new series of satellite is launched, we learn from the past, so the mad scientists decide, well, we could make the next satellite even better in such and such a respect.
Yes.
And now the United States is on the verge of launching, or in progress of launching, a series of new geostationary satellites that are better than ever before. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the previews of what these new satellites can do.
Peek inside the lab here, okay.
Yeah, and so we'll peek in, and here are some mad scientists and mad technicians dressed in bunny suits. This is, believe it or not, this is the business end of a weather satellite under construction in a clean room. You don't want a speck of dust on the lens of a weather satellite's camera. So this is done in a clean environment. They are building a geostationary satellite there.
Oh, cool.
This new generation of satellites, if you had to answer the question, why are these better? Why do we care?
Okay.
You could answer it with 3 words: faster, better, more. The new generation of satellites are faster than the older ones. The images are sharper, they're better, and there's more spectral channels. We'll talk about that.
Any one of these called Steve Austin? It sounds faster, better, stronger.
Yeah. You know what though? These things cost more than $6 million.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're pricey, but they are an essential tool for the Weather Service to fulfill its mission of protecting lives and property.
Exactly.
You got to have the tool to do the job, and it helps all of us when we get the accurate forecast, the warning in time, and this is the tool. Faster. On left here, we see what the old generation of satellites could scan in 5 minutes. On the right, that's what you get in 5 minutes, the whole planet, or at least one side of it. So it's faster. That means you can take more images over a given amount of time and make smoother movie loops out of that. Because animating movie loops really helps you highlight a feature that maybe you can't see as well in a single image.
Absolutely does, yep.
Let's zoom into a small piece of real estate like Texas.
Sure.
And we can see here a satellite that has a 1-minute movie loop visible light. You can see thunderstorms boiling there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the rippling of the top of the thunderstorm. This is a fun movie loop. We're going to be able to see things like this more and more often because of the new satellites being generated. Some things are only evident in animation. So that's faster. Well, what's better? We're able to now have sharper imagery than before. The Japanese have a satellite that uses the same imager that is on the new generation of satellites that America is launching too. An imager, that's just a word for camera. It's the camera on a weather satellite. We have something called the Advanced Baseline Imager.
Sounds important.
ABI. It's important enough it has an acronym. Everything's an acronym. Well, an ABI-like instrument is here over the Western Pacific, and we can see this color image. This is what a human eye might see if you were riding on the satellite. But it's a little bit fuzzy. With new technology, you can post-process the image taken by the satellite to highlight and sharpen some of the features. So this image here of the Western Pacific then becomes this image. Thanks to the processing techniques, yes, this is the newest technology. So we've got a new satellite that can provide better data than ever before. And on the ground, we can process it better than before as well to really sharpen up the imagery and to give us a better view of the weather than ever before. So faster and better and More. What do we mean by more? Well, on the older generation of satellites, the imager, the camera, had 5 slices of the spectral pie, visible imagery, infrared imagery, something we can't see from the human eye. A lot of different slices of the pie. We're going from 5. The new imager has 16 slices. Each slice has its own relevance. Some are best for volcanic ash, for smoke, for dust, for telling the difference between smoke and dust, which can look similar under some infrared channels, but other ones bring out certain things. All of these 16 bands are important. In fact, some of the mad scientists, they didn't want 16, they wanted 24. There's always more you can do.
Right.
But that'll be the next generation of satellites. So now we say, isn't it amazing what we can do these days? And you know what? It makes you think, well, what's the future going to be like too? It's so important to be able to know what's going on now in the weather. If you're going to forecast the future, you got to know where things are now. And satellites are the way to see that, especially in Alaska, where we don't have as many observations down on the ground. The satellites fill in the holes.
Yeah, really important stuff. And I love hearing about what we can see right now, but I love thinking about what is possible in the future. It's amazing stuff. And since you paid for it, it's a good time to learn about it. If you'd like, check out the website at www.goes-r.gov. And as I understand, it's a really easy website to use.
Oh yeah, a lot of good information about what these new satellites mean to Americans. And it's the Weather Service's mission to protect lives and property, and this is the tool how to do it.
Cool stuff, Eric. Thanks so much for sharing that with us today, and thank you for joining us right here in Alaska Weather Facts. We'll see you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And now for your marine forecasts. Starting with the sea ice edge, shorefast ice for St. Lawrence Island is practically gone. For Wales and Shishmaref, it's been reported that the shorefast ice is breaking up. For the Yukon Delta, however, the shorefast is holding strong, and there's a general retreat of the ice edge to the north. For Saturday's marine forecast for southeast Alaska, on the outside waters, 25 to 35 knots and seas up to 15 feet. For the inside waters, 10 to 15 knots and seas up to 5 feet. For Sunday for southeast, on the inside, 10 to 15 knots, seas up to 3 feet. And on the outside waters, 20 to 25 knots and seas all the way up to 18 feet. For south central, on the outside waters, 35 to 45 knots and seas up to 15 feet. Prince William Sound, easterlies 30, seas 7 feet. And then for Cook Inlet, 25 to 35 knots and seas up to 10 feet. For Sunday, on the outside, 20 to 40 knots, seas all the way up to 17 feet. For Prince William Sound, northwesterlies, 25 knots, seas 4 feet. And some westerlies in Cook Inlet, up to 40 knots and seas 11 feet down by Augustine. For the peninsula and Kodiak Island, on the Pacific side, westerlies 25 all the way up to 45 knots and seas up to 24 feet. On the Bering Sea side, 30 to 35 knots, seas up to 12 feet. And then for Sunday, again westerlies on the Gulf side, seas 25, winds 25 to 35 knots, seas up to 17 feet. And then on the Bering Sea side, 15 to 25 knots, seas up to 6 feet. Quite a lot of wind out for the Aleutians again. Wind ranging 30 to 40 knots, seas up to 14 feet on the Bering Sea side and up to 18 feet on the Pacific side. And then for Sunday, quite a lot of different wind directions, but circulation around that low pressure system moving into the Aleutians. Wind ranging from 25 to 45 knots, seas up to 25 feet. And then for the West Coast, wind ranging 15 to 30 knots, seas up to 8 feet down at the Pribilofs and 7 feet south of St. Matthew. And then on Sunday, variable wind directions, but wind ranging 15 to 35 knots, seas up to 12 feet south of St. Matthew Island. And for the Arctic coast, easterlies 25 to 30 knots along the north slope. And then as you get around toward the Chukchi Sea, 15 to 25 knots, and then down through the Bering Strait, northerlies 25 knots. On Sunday, easterlies 25 knots along the Arctic slope, and also for the Chukchi Sea, and then 20 knots northeasterlies for the Bering Strait. So a recap of tonight's weather. Low pressure system in the Gulf off of Kodiak, 997 millibars. Frontal system moving into the entire Gulf Coast. Precipitation there, 9995 millibars in the Bering Sea. That system is weakening with a trough along the west coast, which is causing some problems, watches, warnings, and advisories, and a 980 moving up to the Aleutians. For Saturday's weather, we have a 989 millibar low just south of Seward. Frontal system all across the Gulf Coast, including some warm air moving up the farther east you get. Behind the system, it's cooler air, but rain and showers out over the water and snow when you get onshore. Meantime, along the west coast, we have a trough causing snow showers and some more problems with blowing snow accumulations, and the chance of freezing rain will go way down on Saturday. And then for out in the Aleutians, a 977 millibar low with some cooler air behind it, but warm air up on the east side. And then for Sunday's forecast, we have 1,003 off of Baranof Island, 1,013 off of Point Hope, and then that 982 millibar low moving into the Bering Sea. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks, and stay safe out there.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.